Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Long time no see. It has been, gosh, I can't remember how long it's been since I've stood in this corner and talked to you guys. We are deep in the depths of the off season right now. Um, and I'm just popping on real quick, or at least I think this will be real quick. I don't know. I'm really upset about this, so it's probably going to take a while. Let's talk about the World Athletics Field Athlete of the Year finalists, because they are interesting. For those of you that haven't, I think it was announced like Tuesday, maybe. So it's been a couple days. For those of you guys that aren't aware, World Athletics, they used to just give out one Athlete of the Year award every year. And the last I'm not sure about the women. I'll double check that. But I know for the men, the last thrower to win the Athlete of the Year award was Jan Zelezny in 2000. I'm pretty sure. So like the Bowerman, which has never gone to a thrower, it's something that throwers are kind of excluded from. And then in 2023, they split it up into 3 awards, and so they have a track athlete of the year, a field athlete of the year, and an out of stadium, which is basically like marathons and race walking athlete of the year. And so far in those 2 years, a thrower has not won the field athlete of the year award. And this year, they had a round of 5 nominees, men's and women's, a couple weeks ago. For the men, it was Ethan Katzberg, and then Mondo Duplantis, Mattia Furlani, Pedro Pichardo, and Hamish Kerr. For the women, it was Valarie Allman, Cameron Rogers, Nicola Olaschlagers, Tara Davis Woodhall, and, oh man, I'm kind of blanking on Anna Hall. That's who the other one was. So really good field. 3 throwers out of 10 is not terrible, especially like for the men. I mean, everyone they selected won a world title. And when they picked Ethan Katzberg, makes sense. But among the other men that won a world title, like it makes sense they didn't go with Stahl. Ryan Krauser only competed once. And then again, it makes sense why they didn't go with Kishore and Walcott. So when it comes to the nominees, I'm not necessarily that upset that Ethan Katzberg was the only thrower. For the women, again, I think it makes sense. If Chase would have won the world title, she obviously would have been an easy shoe-in. But Val and Cameron were absurdly dominant. But then when you look at the women like Ulysses Angulo, great performance at Worlds, not going to be a field athlete of the year finalist. Jessica Schilder, great performance at Worlds and got a World Indoor silver, but she was the second best shot putter for most of the year, second or third. So it makes sense that she's not going to be a field athlete of the year nominee. So the nominees I didn't really have objections to. And then on Tuesday, they announced they had whittled it down to 2 finalists for men and women. And the 2 finalists for the men were Mondo Duplantis. It makes sense. And Mattia Furlani. It makes a little bit less sense. For the women, it was Tara Davis Woodhall and Nicola Olaschlagers. Let's talk about that. Let's start with the men. Mondo Duplantis, he broke his own world record 4 times, was undefeated, was 22 centimeters ahead of anyone else in the world. Like, he's gonna win this award until the day he retires, probably. And so that's just a fact of nature, and we just kind of have to accept that. But Mattia Furlani over Ethan Katzberg. Mattia Furlani lost more meets than he won this year. That's crazy. I'll put up his kind of stat profile right here. I posted this on Instagram and Twitter a couple days ago. But he went, I think, 7-8, so lost more meets than he won. He set a PB this year, jumped 8:39. That's a pretty good mark. That mark is also tied for the 77th best mark of all time. So he's not anywhere sniffing like the best jumpers in history. And really, the only reason he's here is because he won the world indoor title and the world outdoor title. That's basically the only thing he has going for him. And it's not solely a merit-based award. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But going off of resume, that is his strongest point, is that he's a world indoor champion and a world outdoor champion. That's really good. But that does, if World Athletics is going to put weight towards the world indoor title, then that is going to just eternally screw over throwers because there's no indoor javelin, there's no indoor discus, and World Athletics doesn't think the weight is a real thing. So discus throwers, javelin throwers, and hammer throwers can only ever win one world title in a year, which is just not the case for all of the jumpers or even like a heptathlete. So it really is kind of just eternally screwing the throwers over. And we'll talk about that even more when we get to the women's side of this as well. So Mattia Furlani, like, it's a good season, but also 2 world titles, great stuff. But also, like, long jump has not been a super impressive event over the last couple years. Like, his 839 mark to win worlds is the second worst winning mark at the World Championships since 2003. So, like, he won worlds, but he didn't have to do a lot to win worlds, whereas Ethan Katzberg won a competition that saw 4 men throw 82 meters. Now, we'll talk about why Ethan deserved this finalist nod. So we'll put his stats up here. And, it wasn't a flawless season for Ethan. He dropped a couple comps early in the season to Rudy Winkler and Ben Halash, but 84.70 at Worlds puts him 5th all-time, which, for those of you guys keeping track, is 72 spots ahead of where Mattia Furlani ranks on the all-time long jump list. And also, like, I don't know exactly what the doping history of the long jump looks like for the men, but we have a pretty good idea of kind of how dirty that all-time list might be for the men's hammer. So it's arguably more impressive, even if Furlani was 5th all-time in the long jump, it's arguably more impressive that Katzberg is 5th all-time in the hammer. And he just was far more consistent. He lost 3 competitions. I think, I mean, I have his record right here, but I think off the top of my head, he was 9-3, and won the world title. So, like, he lost less than Furlani. He won every world title he could. He performed better than Furlani. Compared to his peers, he performed better than Furlani. And the difference is just that world indoor title, which is an impossibility for Ethan Katzberg. So that really kind of screws a lot of things up. And it's really frustrating. And, like, honestly, for Furlani, like, I could make an argument maybe that, like, low-key Mikolas should be ahead of Furlani. Because, like, Mikolas Alekna didn't win a world title, but took world silver in whatever that world final was. I mean, I don't know if that would be, like, taken into consideration for his resume, like the conditions of the world championship final. But he broke the world record. He had the best throw ever in a stadium. He lost 3 times all year, which is about a third as much as Furlani lost. Was it 4? No, 3 competitions over 72 meters. I think maybe 6 total over 70. Like, yeah, he got a world silver, but everything about his season was better than Furlani's aside from that. So it's like, It truly is just mind-boggling, and I didn't even realize until I started, like, doing the research to, like, put those stats together for that post. I honestly wasn't that upset about, like, Furlani, um, being on there because I'm like, I know, like, he won World Indoors and World Outdoors, um, and, like, Katzberg lost a couple times during the season, so, like, I'm not too upset about that. I was more so distracted by the women's one. But then as I was looking at it, I'm like, this dude had a losing record this year and only had like 1 or 2 jumps that were in like the top 10 performances of the year. Um, it's like he did not dominate. He performed well at championship meets, which is obviously like a tough thing to do and it's impressive. But there's just absolutely no world where he should have been a finalist over Ethan Katzberg. Now we'll move into the women's, where there's 2 snubs in this one. So we'll start with the 2 women who were named finalists, Tara Davis-Woodall and Nicola Olaslagers. Tara, undefeated in 2024, but she only competed 6 times, which, like, I don't really know if I'm going to blame her for not competing a ton. Like, I don't know if that's a knock that I'm really going to hold against her in this. Like, when she showed up, she got the job done. And she had, I think, 1 competition this year where she didn't clear 7 meters, which is, like the benchmark of really excellent women's long jumping. And her season was really, really good. She won the world outdoor title. She had the world lead. She had, I think, the 3 best jumps in the world this year in only 6 competitions, which is pretty impressive. So yeah, Tara had a really great season. I would argue, though, that Valarie Allman had a better season, but we'll get to that in a second. Nicola Olaslagers had a better season than Mattia Furlani did, but I think she is also, once again, buoyed by winning the world indoor title, which is something that Valarie Allman or Cameron Rogers were not capable of doing. She went, I think, 9-3 this year. I'll put hers up here right now. Jumped a new PB of 2 meters 04, which is tied for 16th in world history, I believe. So she ranks much better historically than Mattia. Like, Nicola Olaslagers is a much more legitimate finalist for this award than Mattia Furlani is. I don't mean to hate on Mattia Furlani, but I have no idea how he's here. For Nicola Olaslagers, like, really good season, but she lost a couple times. I mean, I think the one she lost to Yaroslav Mahuchik, who's the world record holder. So they're respectable losses. It's not like she had any terrible competitions or anything, but she did not have as clean of a slate as we saw from Cameron Rogers or Valarie Allman. She did not perform as historically great as Cameron Rogers or Valarie Allman did, but she got a world indoor title. So I think that's really kind of elevating her campaign and her status as a finalist. Into the throwers now. Valarie Allman, right here, cannot ask for much more than this. Oh man, I'm forgetting her record off the top of my head right now. 14-0, I believe, undefeated for the 2nd straight year. Same thing as Tara in the long jump. Neither of them have lost since the Budapest World Championships. And Val, I mean, 73-52 in Ramona, number 6 all time. Gosh, I really hope it's 6 and not 5, or else I'm gonna look like an idiot. But Val just dominated in a way that, she has the last 2 years now, where the top list in the world this year, if you take out marks that other people had in Ramona, she's like 1 through 7 or something. So, I mean, Val just decimated an excellent year of women's discus throwing, comfortably won the world title. And for Val, like, her prominence on the all-time list now is just so, so impressive. Like, Ramona is Ramona, but the women's discus all-time list is the women's discus all-time list. So being as high as she is right now and knowing she has potential to keep climbing that ladder is just so ridiculously impressive. Um, Another note on Tara, because I think Cameron, I understand Tara over Cameron. I don't understand Tara over Val. Both undefeated, both world champions. Tara didn't compete indoors, so she doesn't get that indoor-outdoor boost. But Tara didn't even PB this year. Her PB, which is 718 from last year, is pretty significantly worse on the all-time list than Val's PB is. So competed less. Wasn't as, I'd say they were probably equally dominant. It was kind of a down year for women's long jump, it felt like, mainly just because like Malaika Mahambo wasn't at the peak of her powers, so Tara didn't really have a true rival. But it did feel like for both of them, there was a sense of inevitability in every competition where it's just like, all right, Tara's going to win, Val's going to win. That's that. So like their seasons were really similar. I just think Val's was a little bit better. And like for Tara, this isn't even her best season. Like pretty objectively, I think last year was better for Tara than this year was. That might just be because I think she competed more last year, so she had more marks out there, but I don't know. It's just tough when you see the best women's discus season we've ever seen from a clean athlete get disrespected by someone who didn't get overlooked because of someone who didn't even have the best season of their career. That's kind of frustrating. For Cameron, she lost once this year. I believe other than that, though, she was 10-1. The one loss was that meet in Norway, the Trondheim games. And then, I mean, Cameron really just elevated at World Championships, which is impressive because her level was already the best in the world. 80-51 to move to number 2 in world history. And, you know, like you can say being that high on the women's hammer all-time list isn't as impressive as some of the other events, just given how new it is. But I mean, she was also competing against like 8 of the best in world history, all at world championships, and she decimated all of them. So, I mean, that's as much of, I think, a boost to her campaign as you could imagine. So, yeah, I mean, her season she put together just a great season, PB at pre, to move up on the all-time list a little bit more, and then the explosion at Worlds. And, like, I do think the loss, and it wasn't just, like, a loss, like, it was a bad comp by her standards. I think she threw, like, 72 or something on that day. So I do think that knock, like, I could understand Tara being ahead of her because I do think going undefeated carries some weight, even though, you know, Cameron did compete almost twice as much as Tara did. But I don't see Nicole Olaschlagers over Cameron Rogers in any sense of the word. The world indoor title is great, but it's also an unfair advantage that's given to jumpers if they're going to weigh that kind of thing. Like, I understand you can't just pretend the indoor season never happened, but if you're looking at two athletes where Cameron had a better record, she lost less this year, she's higher on the all-time list, she dominated world championships more, I don't think you can then look at Nicole Olaschlagers and go, she won a world indoor title and use that as the separator, because that doesn't make sense. So now let's talk a little bit about how these awards are decided. To get from 5 nominees down to 2 finalists, the voting comes from 3 areas. 50% of the vote comes from the World Athletics Council. 25% of the vote comes from the World Athletics family, which I don't think anyone really knows what that means. I think there is some component of like media members are a part of that. I think former athletes might play a role in that, maybe like administrative people in some federations, but we're not exactly sure what the World Athletics family means. And then the final 25% comes from a fan vote on social media with, I think, like Instagram likes, Facebook likes, and like Twitter retweets or something like that. So it is not entirely a popularity contest. If it was a popularity contest, like I understand Tara is going to be unstoppable. I understand throwers kind of getting shafted there because it's just simply not the most popular discipline. But 75% of it is theoretically merit based. And it's people who theoretically should know a lot about the sport voting for who they think was better. And if those 75% of people thought that Mattia Furlani had a better season than Ethan Katzberg, they should not be voting again next year. Like, that is just really, really bad. And as my guy Bo Throws pointed out, the World Athletics Council, I'll put Bo's tweet right here, is I think it's 26 member committee of I think mostly former athletes, but then also some non-athletes. And of that, I believe it's a 26 person committee. There's one thrower, and Valarie Adams is holding it down for every thrower in the world. I think there's like 4 or 5 jumpers on that committee. So that, you know, there could be implicit biases in there that are heightened by the lack of throwing representation, which is annoying. But I mean, the biggest thing is just like, if these awards are to be merit based, then what happened with these finalists cannot happen. And it's not just the field events, because in the women's track athlete of the year, we saw the exact same thing with neither Melissa Jefferson Wooden, triple world champion this year, or Beatrice Chibet, double world champion, world record in the 5K. Neither one of them were named finalists in the women's track athlete of the year. And Femke Bol, who won a single world gold medal in a pretty diluted 400-meter hurdles field, and didn't even PB this year, was named a finalist along with Sydney McLaughlin-Lavroni. So it's not like these kind of really bad decisions are solely affecting throwers. Also, I've been ranting about this for like 24 minutes now. And I've put a lot of thought and anger towards these awards, but ultimately, like, they don't matter because nobody is going to remember and be like, oh, well, Mattia Furlani was a finalist for in 5 years. Someone's going to be like, in 2025, the finalists for the World Athletics Field Athlete of the Year were Mattia Furlani, and that means he had a better season than Ethan Katzberg. Like, this doesn't really matter. The only way I could picture it mattering is if some athletes have like contract incentives based around these awards, which would be unfortunate for any male field athlete not named Mondo because they're never going to win this. So it ultimately, like, I don't know how much this actually matters. It's just annoying because if you're going to put up the facade of these awards recognizing the best field athletes of 2025, they're not doing that. Plain and simple, they are not doing that. You could also, for the women's thing, like, Anna Hall over Nicola Olaschlagers is a very easy argument to make. But that's a topic for another day. So I think I've spent all the energy I want to spend talking about this. It's just frustrating. It doesn't make any sense. It's disappointing. Whoever is voting on these awards is voting very poorly. And that's that. So thank you guys for watching. I'm trying to think of, like, things to do in the off season, but coming up a little dry. If you guys have ideas for content you'd like to see me make in the next couple months before we get indoor rolling, please drop your suggestions in the comments below. Um, but yeah, thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, follow on Spotify. Um, Instagram is Pauly Throws. Twitter is P Hoff Mahoney. And I will see you guys next time.